What is up, everybody? Welcome to Golden Dice Podcast, episode 35. We're finally getting episodes to you back-to-back weeks, so I'm excited about that. This one recording a little bit earlier, about a few days before we actually post it. It's Thursday, should be here Monday or Tuesday. But this time, I have two guests with me, but probably two that you're not expecting. But first is the reigning Nova American purebred New Jerseyan champion that we have here. We got Drew with us. Drew, how you doing today?
Good, man. How are you? I like that intro.
I figured you would.
That sounds good. I like it. I'll take that.
Yeah, and next up we have his understudy, hoping to be reigning New Jersey Nova champion one day. We have Mr. Co-Pilot. We got Ray with us. Ray, how you doing?
I was waiting for how underwhelming my intro was going to be. That's fine, though. I'll take it. I'm good with it. I'm happy to be here.
I'm here so I don't get fined, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Well, I'm excited to have you guys. But shout out to Ray, of course. He's filling in last second, so we could have three people on. So as much as I bust on you, I'm happy that you're here, and we have a good episode that was tailored towards Drew. But we'll open it up to you, and we'll figure it out. Scott got dragged into work, so.
So my intro goes from the worst intro ever to I'm sorry that we grabbed this guy and he's always available. So, okay.
Yeah. I mean, I have to point this out. I'll just get it out of the way right now that Discard to Reroll used our... Well, I think I said this... I don't remember when I said this, but Discard to Reroll used our personal Patreon to record an episode. So you were a part of that, man. You're like Discard to Reroll co-pilot.
We had to do what we had to do. I mean, we have to pull out all the stops when we're recording a podcast with the one and only Bobby Sapphire. We got to make sure we're really on point. And part of that is using other people's, Discords to record in. So,
wait, so can I ask a question real quick? Because I think I just put two and two together. Does co-pilot come because you're Chip's co-pilot? Is that where that comes from?
Oh my goodness!
Did I just figure?
You're
this
not
out,
the reigning champion for nothing.
He cracked the code.
I got it, man. I solved it.
Yeah, it's like
that's why it's the co-pilot. I figured it out.
It's a cute little play on that. Yeah.
Drew, I'm going to be honest. I didn't realize it until I said it right in that sentence right there.
Perfect. We're on the same page, man.
Yeah. But Ray, man, I got to say, it's, Drew is the Nova champion. You got Edwin is the world champion, and Cox is the North American champion. But, I think you reached the pinnacle of Star Wars Destiny to become the co-host of Discard to Reroll with Mr. Chip. I don't think there's anything higher, and I actually think that's why the Double Blanks guys quit, because they started working so much with Mr. Chip, and they're like, there's nowhere to go up. At this point, we're at the peak right here, so they moved on to Keyforge.
Yeah, I'll be able to retire in at least 3 more episodes. I could just hang it up, leave on top. So yeah, I don't have to win anything. I already have the biggest prize. So you're exactly right.
There you go. Cool. We'll move on into some of the questions about you guys, which, at this point, both of you are well into your podcasting careers and content creation careers that maybe some people joined a little bit later but didn't get to hear about your backgrounds or kind of who you are. So we're going to backtrack a little bit. And I just want to ask a question. Have you guys ever been involved in a competitive card game before? If not, is there an area or video game or some form of something that you took competitively, sports or whatever it might be?
Yeah, I'll kick it off here. It's my first CCG, I guess. I played the Decipher game growing up, and not competitively, just for fun. And it was more of a how do we jam Darth Vader, Boba Fett, and whoever the other expensive cards were at the time into one deck. So that was really only competitive card game I played growing up. But the other ABG guys played Pokemon. They were really into Yu-Gi-Oh for a while. I think they were pretty relatively high level competitive players. So I would be a testing dummy with them sometimes, but I didn't really get into it. But growing up playing basketball was always big. Still play basketball to this day. Played a lot of poker. Played pretty much through college back when Poker Stars was big. Paid a lot of my expenses doing that during the poker boom. And then most recently, StarCraft. I took a run at being a decent StarCraft player. It turns out my hands aren't as fast as they need to be. But I thought I had the mental aspect of that game down pretty well, like the strategy behind it. I thought I got pretty high level at, and there's more to it, unfortunately.
That's like I could never grasp like the RTS games at a competitive level. Like I played Warcraft 3. Like I don't even want to know how many hours growing up, especially. But like I was never good. I always did like the fun like creation levels that people make, the modding levels. Those were always fun. But if you put me in like a one-on-one actual situation, dude, you're gonna cream me in like 5 seconds.
I think that probably the slowest hands of a professional StarCraft player you're ever going to find is like 200 actions per minute. You'll occasionally get some like freak that plays at like 150 and is like a low level competitive player. But I pretty much peaked at like 130, 140, what I could do input wise. And that's just like, that doesn't cut it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool though. That's cool. What about you, Ray?
Um,
What's your background? What's your story?
I think
Growing up in the streets of Jersey.
I think I was flipping tables to games of Pictionary before that was even cool. Yeah, I played Pictionary, with the family, pretty competitively. No, it was
I'm the reigning champion against my my
yeah,
two kids.
my aunt could never beat me. But no, it was the natural progression of Pokemon. I still to this day I don't mean to pick on anyone. I can't stand Yu-Gi-Oh. Like I tried to get into it, never could. I hopped into Magic when I was like late 90s. I was like 10 years old. Hopped into Magic, and I've pretty much been playing ever since. I went to a couple competitive events, what's called like PPTQs for Magic, but realized like that was about as far as I was going to get. It's just that's a overly competitive game. I guess Drew's like story of his StarCraft and me at Magic was like I guess we peaked. I guess I don't know. But ever since I've been just kind of finding games that I like. And my buddy hooked me up with Star Wars Destiny, and I was just like, and I'll give it a try. I was like, these dice look cheesy, but whatever. And kind of just fell in love with it. Now I'm like expanding, Dragon Ball Super. I'm just doing all kinds of stuff. I'm just trying to find things that I enjoy.
What stopped you from Magic? Just like you felt you hit that wall, that ceiling, and you were looking for something else?
Yeah, like Magic can certainly give you a lot of fundamentals to any type of card game. Like a lot of it just translates, as far as just like accumulating resources and don't overextend and timing and baiting your opponent and things like that. And I think for like my age at the time, I was a pretty proficient player. We're talking like 1999, early 2000s. I was playing, and then into high school. But yeah, I think I did just hit like a wall, and then I stopped for like 3 or 4 years, and then came back as an adult and was like, oh wow, like this is why I didn't get it. Like I just wasn't mature enough to really put forth the effort into understanding this type of stuff and like the next level plays and things like that. The price point for Magic is a little bit more daunting than other card games, so that always has deterred me. Sometimes I'll buy all in, and then other times I just want to hop out. So that was kind of like a deterrence, but I don't know. It's very demanding. Magic the Gathering, if you want to be a competitive player, it is beyond a lifestyle. It's you want to ensure that you can get sponsorships and companies can at least supply the cards that you need, because competitive decks are easily $2,000 and up. So it's just that's not the type of world I want to be in anymore.
Yeah, that's insane. That price value or price input for a competitive deck. So Drew, you mentioned that you had played other games in the past, but now obviously you're well into Destiny. What, pun intended, drew you to Destiny?
I like it, man. That was a good setup. Did you have it? Did you have that written down ahead of time, or is
Oh,
that
yeah.
like? Oh, okay.
That's written down with the word Drew bolted.
That's why you're the best, man. That's why you're the best. Yeah. Kyle started playing it casually at Highlander Games, Boonton, New Jersey. It's the mecca of Star Wars Destiny on the East Coast. If you guys haven't heard that yet, great group of players there. So Kyle started playing there. And he asked Paul if Paul wanted to play. And if you don't know Paul or his personality is when he does something, he does it to the absolute maximum. So Kyle probably had like $75 worth of packs when he started playing. And a week later, Paul had every card, quadruples of every card in case somebody else wanted to play with him. And they had,
I heard that if I want to go on like a trip somewhere, I could just ask Paul and he'll just buy the plane ticket on the spot.
He's the guy, man. That's how we do it. You always ask Paul first, and then you have a 2-man crew immediately. So he's great for that. He's a good friend in that way. I got to constantly give him a little crap. So Paul bought in, and then I started playing with Kyle a little bit. I started playing actually Jabba Unkar was my first deck because I immediately was like, I had seen CCGs played before, and I was like, well, there's only 30 cards in this deck, and I asked Kyle, can you just mill the person out, right? Because constantly when I was playing these games with damaged decks, I was, only had 5 or 6 cards in my deck. I was like, why don't I just come up with a strategy where I, get all your cards and just win that way. So found out mill was a viable strategy. Started with Jabba Unkar. I think I threw Crime Lord and Ace in the Hole in there at one point in time, and got into the game. Those guys convinced me to go to PAX Unplugged. Had a great time, kind of just like fell in love with the community there. And I did okay. I think Cody basically beat me up at Unplugged. It was 02, so that was my first introduction to Man 10. I think on the weekend I was like 5-5 at Unplugged, but I was like motivated after that. I was like, man, I like this community. I like this game. I want to get good.
That's awesome. That's good that you came away with that attitude, because the time of the 02 you're out at Galactic Qualifiers, I feel like was pretty rough.
I think I was fortunate that I didn't go 02 on any of those days. I think I won at least. I think the third day I only won 1 game, but the other days I think I was 2-2 and 3-2, and then 1-2 on the last day. So I got to play a lot of games, and I got to I had a good mix between like, hey, here's a good experienced player who's smashing me, and here's also somebody who at the time has no idea what they're doing, and kind of improved.
Did you play any other FFG games, or is it just Destiny?
I own a bunch of the Legion. I've been painting some of the Legion stuff, so I think that's on my things to learn list at some point soon. I think there's some discussion in the ABG Discord of us maybe picking up X-Wing as a side game if there's actually any downtime coming with Destiny.
That's what I'm.
Hey man, I'm in for both those things. I've got Legion and I've got a little bit of X-Wing. So
nice.
Give you some games on, man.
Yep.
What about you, Ray? What drew you into Destiny?
Yeah, so like I said, it was my buddy Jerry. He was he just like lives at the card shop, and he always saw me in there, interested in different things, and like I said, primarily playing Magic, and it's a pretty small local. Where I'm at is right outside of a military post, so we have a lot of turnover when it comes to continued people going to the same store. You'll become best friends with someone, and then 4 months later they're gone. So I don't know. It's rough to get consistent scenes going. But Magic is a staple there, and Jerry is really the guy that introduces everybody to like the new game, because he's crazy enough to spend all of his money on everything. And he introduced me to Destiny. We had a lot of fun with it. I think like my first deck I really took to was Django Bala Trooper, and I just love that deck. I still try to like bring that deck out every once in a while because I think it's so much fun. Went to a store championship at a locals, like a couple cities over, and I actually won that one. And it was probably like after a month of playing. And I thought that was pretty cool. Like I was like, wow, I'm really amazing at this game. Sky's the limit. And little did I know that there were people that were about to get really good at this game. But yeah, so it really intrigued me because I had, a moderate amount of success. I got my little Phasma mat, and I don't know. I just kind of have always been searching and playing, Destiny and different decks from there.
Nice. And now you don't do any other FFG games, right? Destiny's the extent for you?
No, yeah, Destiny's the extent. It's actually my first exposure to FFG. Like I'm not a big board gamer. To be honest with you, like I've never, like this is gonna sound bad, but I've never really even heard of FFG. And people are like, yeah, they're a staple, X-Wing and the board games, and I just am strictly a CCG, type of guy. But I was talking to Bobby Sapphire, and I think X-Wing is in a good spot because I know a lot of like the older players are a little disgruntled about I guess let's call it like 2.0, but I think it's a good point for new players to kind of hop in right now.
Yeah, if you're definitely looking to get into X-Wing at this point, like, yeah, I think you're solid right now with all the revamp and reset of everything. And I mean, it stinks for the older players, but they could still buy that converter kit type thing, whatever it is.
Yeah, that's got to be a
Just swaps all
bad
everything.
moment though. Like everything you've already
Yeah, I
put
can see
money
it.
into, you got to like, I don't know, put more money into just to make it relevant again.
Yeah. I think the game needed it though. Like I tried hopping in a little bit at the end of like the 1.0 before like 2.0 was announced, and I don't know. There were some things that was just like it felt kind of dumb because there was like this one upgrade, twin laser turret, where it was just like it could shoot you from like range 3 to 4, like all the way across the board, and people would just like hide and shoot with that, and like that was the entire game. And I was like, okay,
Would you say triple laser turret? Is that what you said?
yeah, triple or twin laser turret. It's the same gun that's in what you call it now
Is
in
it
Across the Galaxy.
triple laser turret?
Yeah,
That's
that
the same one.
Yeah,
It's probably
it was
the same
broken in
art,
that
too.
game, and it's like half broken. No, it was different. The art for that was the laser cannon, I think.
Mm.
The triple laser turret. Maybe it looks similar. I forget. But yeah. All right. So that's interesting. Hearing you guys come from that and how you got into Destiny. What about Star Wars? Are you guys big Star Wars fans?
Huge fan, man. Huge fan. Got artwork, collectibles, you name it, I'm into it. I've always just had a thing for Star Wars. So probably gonna die buried in a vault with all my Star Wars stuff. Hopefully, that's the dream anyway.
I get behind that.
Yeah, I'm a pretty big Star Wars fan. I mean, my biggest thing is Drew said, like, I don't know why over the years I've accumulated like Star Wars art, probably more than I should for the level of fan that I am. But yeah, I like to collect. I'm a huge collector. And liking the Star Wars franchise didn't hurt to add to this mini collection.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think I came for the Star Wars, but kind of like the mechanics of the game are so much fun that I'm still playing.
I have to say that time you took me to Joe's house and we did like some play testing.
Yeah.
Joe's house it's awesome. It's like this crazy bachelor pad with like, it's like an art museum just to like look
Yeah.
around, and he's got Star Wars stuff and like, I don't know, movie stuff. It's awesome.
Drew, you've been there, right? You were there for
Yeah.
testing before Nova, right?
Yeah. Joe's house is great. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was good testing too. I'm pretty sure I went like 0-18 against Mill that night, and then I beat it when it mattered. So it was solid. It was solid reps, that's for sure.
Yeah, I would definitely take 100 losses in testing to then go win an event, win something like Nova. Yeah, I mean his house, he has everything. Like he's got like the Breath of the Wild like limited run of art that's like huge, takes up his back wall. He's got like some of his store champ plaques hung up. He's got this like huge liquor cabinet and just all these crazy things within it. It's just like everywhere you look, every nook and cranny has some type of like reference to a video game or something along those lines. Transformers as well. That's everywhere now.
Yeah, even in the bathroom. I went to go like take a piss and I'm looking over and there's like
posters.
And I'm like, this place is great.
Yeah, he's got a great place there. It's a shame he doesn't play Destiny anymore.
I know.
I'd love to get him back.
Yeah, R.I.P. Joe.
Yeah, pour one out for Joe. Anybody listening?
I heard he's like a Transformers celebrity though. That's what people have told me.
He probably, so they're Wrecking Rule in Transformers, and they are probably like the torchbearers of like Transformers in content creation. Like almost how like Knights of Ren, I guess, or Chansky was like the original and how big they are. Like everybody that plays Destiny knows them. Of those content creators, it's probably like the same for Transformers. But yeah, I mean they're just that big. And Joe won something at PAX as well, like whatever tournament that they had at PAX Unplugged. He won that, so it's like everybody knows them. They got spoilers. They're like the only ones that get spoilers so far, it seems. But
so I always liked Joe in Destiny because Joe is like, he had me prepared for every jank deck on the planet. Like somebody could whip out like Boba Fett over into Price and be like, "Hey, I'm going to surprise you." And I'm like, "Listen, I've been playing with Joe Biyoshi for like a year now. Nothing you put in that table right here is going to surprise me."
Literally, when you said janky deck, my mind went to Boba Price as well.
Right? Yeah. Just all this stuff you'd never think to play that he made work, and it's just like it's so good to play against for tournament preparation because you just have there's these plays that only Joe and like 3 other people in the country are thinking about, but Joe has you prepared for them.
Definitely. I mean, testing was always like fun with him because he'd sit down in front of you, like whip out a deck, and he's like, "All right, here it is. Nick Cuenca, top 8 at Nova. Are you ready? This is it. If you lose, you're out. It's 1-1." I'm just like, what is happening right now?
That's so accurate.
Yeah, and that's it's just like he busts out the gauntlet and suddenly he becomes these people. But anyways, that's Joe for you. He's if you're looking for him, that's Wreck and Rule Transformers. On the Star Wars note, I want to get this could be a little hot topic. What's your favorite Star Wars movie, and what is your least favorite Star Wars movie?
Oh man, how long do we have? Favorite. So my favorite is New Hope. Very close with Empire, obviously, but I feel like I can rewatch New Hope more than I can rewatch Empire. And it just has that mystique that it's the original behind it. So huge fan of that. Least favorite, is Last Jedi. I gotta say it. I don't like it. If we have another 2 hours, I can keep going on that, but I'll just leave it at Last Jedi.
What about you, Ray? You got a counter to that? Or you?
I think it's a good pull with Empire. That's probably my favorite. Close runner-up. I was touched by Rogue One. I thought as a standalone, like Rogue One is really well done. I don't know how.
I liked Rogue One too. Yeah, it was really good.
Like
I think that's hands down the best like Disney one so far.
Yeah, I don't even think there's a close second to it. It's definitely like it feels like one of the original movies, and it's just really, really good.
I agree.
As far as the worst, the other night you guys are gonna hate this. The other night I watched Solo again, and it just didn't hit me. Like I was watching it, and my buddy hadn't seen it before, and we were watching it, and I feel like I'm picking on it because it's kind of like low man on the totem pole, but I'm gonna have to say just Solo. I think that would have been my least favorite overall.
That's fine. I mean, it's like one of those like it's just like a fun, like not really crazy good story, but it's just like a fun movie. So like I get why it wouldn't click with some people. I enjoyed it. I loved it. But I get why it would.
Like I like it. It just doesn't seem like it has the same, pull as a big Star Wars film. I feel like it was. I don't know. It just felt really rushed to me. Like not the production or like the quality of it. It's just the marketing timeline. And I feel like it just hit us in the face. And it's like, oh wow, we get another one. That's cool. But I don't know. It just didn't have the same like. Wow, something's coming, in December of this year, and it's going to be huge, and the anticipation was building, and I don't know, it was a fun movie, but it wasn't a breathtaking Star Wars film.
I really like the description of Solo as the Ant-Man of Star Wars. I think that's a really good description where it's like, hey, did you like Ant-Man? Like, yeah, it's fine. Like, do you care? Like, if Ant-Man disappeared from the Marvel MCU, would it bother you that much? Probably not. But like, would you go see another Ant-Man movie? Yes, you would. That's kind of how I feel about Solo.
I don't know if I agree with that first one, dude. I love Paul Rudd and I loved Ant-Man. It's actually one of my like favorite. The first one, the second one was like whatever. Ant-Man and Wasp was whatever, but
yeah,
the first one I actually really enjoyed.
To me, they're all in that like they're fine category. Like they're good. Yeah. They're not masterpieces, but like, did I watch them? Yes. Would I watch them again? Yes. Was it worth the money I paid? Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. I think that's a good assessment. I think it would have been so much better if they did push it back, like Ray was saying.
Yeah, it's weird now.
December.
We have this like weird gap where there's no Star Wars movies now. Like
rumor has it, FFG took over the Disney movie department. And now we're gonna have a long gap.
We're at the mercy of their releases.
Yeah, their release schedule is what we're lining up with.
Can you imagine if FFG did movies though, where they're like, "Hey, like July 1st, new Star Wars movie." Everyone's all pumped up buying tickets, and they're like, "Actually, it's going to be December."
Their advertisement movie. It's on the boat.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Did we say Q2? We meant Q4. That's what we meant.
Yeah. There was a misprint, typo, intern. He's fired.
Yeah. It's on the monorail at Disney World. It's all
Yeah,
set
really.
up. Sorry, guys. We're 6 months early. We had
Yeah.
we had shipping problems.
We had shipping.
Which we tried to airdrop it, but it didn't work. So it's on the boat. I'll probably similar to you, Drew. I think my favorite, it's got to be probably 5, and a close second is 4, and then my least favorite, I think, is well and away The Last Jedi.
You're on the right side of history there, Jack. That's all I'm gonna say.
What do you think of the prequels? Because I like for my timeline, like growing up, like I don't know, they hit me kind of hard. Like the Phantom Menace was huge for me. Like I just loved it. But I know a lot of people did.
Yeah. I love the like time of it, and I love the backstory and stuff, and I just love the droids and Clone Wars and all that stuff, but they're awful movies in my opinion. Like I love everything about them, and like I played all the video games growing up, loved it, enjoyed it, but in terms of like actual movies, to me they're pretty bad. But I mean I've rewatched them plenty of times and still will continue to do so, but I think I just come from a point where I'm like, this is not a good movie, but I love the universe, so I'm just gonna roll with it.
I think having like rewatched them a bunch now, I think that Phantom Menace actually feels the most like the original trilogy. Like when you watch them like in order, it kind of like fits in that same type of movie as the first 3. But I think they're all okay. I think the CGI is not aging very well, so that's something if they're gonna, maybe they'll update, maybe they won't. But I do have to say when I remember I went and saw that. I think I was in like, I don't know, like 7th grade. Like I went on the opening night, and there were, people with lightsabers and all that stuff fighting in the crowd. And I remember leaving Phantom Menace fairly disappointed. And then I remember when I saw Rogue One, I like it fulfilled the like, this is what I've been waiting for with what I was expecting for Phantom Menace for like 20 years. Like it was like, that's what I wanted with the prequels, what we got with Rogue One.
Yeah, Rogue One was like beautiful to me. Like it was amazing.
Yeah, hands down for me the best of the Disney ones. But we'll move on since we are not a general Star Wars podcast. But I wanted to get your guys' opinions on that. It's always fun to talk about that stuff. But Drew, how did ABG Arrowbrook Gaming get started? How did you guys come together and start that? You're about a year old now at this point, right? I mean, we started around the same time, I believe.
Yeah, I think we're like a year and a month, maybe something like that. Yeah. So I think I like accidentally won the West Virginia regional. And I say accidentally because my skill level then compared to now is I mean, it was like it's night and day. But I was really good at R2P2 at the time. There was one deck that I could pilot well. It was R2P2, and it got me a regional win. And after that, we kind of talked about the idea of doing content. Paul had wanted to do it for a while. He had done some Yu-Gi-Oh content back in the day. So he was like, hey, you want to try to like springboard this into some content? Didn't really take off like we had hoped it would right away. But 6 months in, we improved our quality, got a little better at the game, was able to offer decent gameplay advice to people, and I think people finally started to latch on, and we have a pretty decent following now. And a 1-2 at regional along the way, a 1-2-4 at regionals or at nationals along the way didn't really hurt our development either.
Yeah, I'm sure. Ray.
Yeah.
What's your journey been a little bit? You've kind of
wow, it's crazy.
You've done a little this, you've done a little that.
I'm almost embarrassed.
We talked about you being the co-pilot.
I get around. So I decided with the same person that got me into Destiny, Jerry, I decided like, hey, we should do a podcast because I'm doing cheesy box opening videos of like, hey, what is in a starter set, starter kit. And people really liked them. I don't know. But I started off as Thundershot Games, and there's no other reason other than that was like my PlayStation tag name. Like it's just always been that. And I was like, sure, let's go with that. And I had my buddy Jerry on, and we did a couple podcasts, and that was a lot of fun. Then I hooked up with the Jackalman Games guys, and had a pretty decent lengthy run with them, about like 8 or 9 months. And then I left Jackalman Games, and just because my schedule was really rough, and I just felt like I couldn't commit the same amount of time I wanted to, and there was a lot of moving parts. So I just decided, hey, it's probably my time to take a step back. And then I was he's gonna love to hear this. I was heavily recruited by Mr. Chip from Discard to Reroll. I mean, I couldn't. I had agents on the phone. Had to take messages from them. It was wild. No, but he called me up and just asked for someone that was a consistent voice that he can kind of lean on for scheduling purposes. And I told him, I'm always available for podcasts. That's why I'm here now. And at the time,
It's your third one in the
yeah,
week.
third one, no big deal, just racking them up. Third one in 3 days, like this is my life. But yeah, and I told him, like, after a couple podcasts, like, I really do want to get back to making YouTube videos because I think it's a lot of fun. YouTube's a hard market to get into. Like, if you want to say, like, hey, I want to get my brand out there, it is difficult. And anybody who is like a YouTube celebrity or grinds out videos, like, props to you because it's hard. But it also is very rewarding. And I don't know why, but I just had this itch to make more videos. And I told Chip that, and he's like, sure. We talked about it. Again, wrote in my contract, and everything's good. So I got the co-pilot and Discard to Reroll.
Yeah, Copilot's been good. I've been enjoying seeing your TTS videos back up your deck techs, and obviously, I mean, Brook is putting out almost what seems like a video a day, which is always enjoyable to catch.
That's our goal. We try to get a video out every day. I think it ends up usually being like 4 or 5 a week. And then we have, I'm going to plug our Patreon real quick. We have some that are behind the Patreon paywall also, where we just basically record our play testing for people that, want to see more than just the free YouTube video stuff.
I dream of getting on a consistent schedule with this, but we'll get there one day, maybe.
Yeah, it's easier when you have a big group of people that are doing it. Like, we have 5 people right now that are invested in creating content, between me, Paul, Kyle, Dave, and Cody, who are like the really active members right now. And it's nice having, if I can't get a video up, Paul or Cody are willing to do some recording to catch up.
Yeah, I think that's like the tough part. Like, Tommy is obviously justifiably busy. Scott's got a lot going on with transferring to new job and stuff, but then and then Shane, I don't need to say anything about that.
I was going to say, we got almost 30 minutes into this podcast without mentioning Shane. I was like, did I do something wrong? I didn't mention Shane on the one that I came on.
No, trust me, he will get mentioned many times, and I'm sure the closing statement will be an insult to Shane as is tradition, except last week where this past one, Tommy just like mumbled. that was his closing. But that's interesting. As a team, I want to almost like dig into that a little bit. Like, is there like a certain approach that the 5 of you take into testing? Like, is there a certain thing like, oh, somebody will come up with this deck and now we just put it through the gauntlet type thing? Or is it just like we all kind of come up with our own decks and just run them? Or like, is there a specific strategy?
Yeah. We kind of all start in different areas. And what I'll say that I really like about our team is everybody starts from a different point, right? Like, Dave only plays villains, so Dave's only thinking about like what's the best villain deck. My brother Kyle typically only plays hero vehicles, or that style of play. So he's thinking from that standpoint. Paul likes fast decks. Edwin likes decks that can kill a character in 2 turns. So we all kind of have this different ideas on how to win the game. And then, all day while people are at work, they're just shooting deck ideas into our Discord. Like, hey, do you think this works? And then a lot of the times people are just like, no, that's a pile of crap. Why would you bring that to me to look over? That's probably the response like 80% of the time. But, every once in a while something comes out where it's decent, or where, we find other decks that we like, that we think we can make positive changes to, and that kind of stuff. And then, we just put them through the ringer, just grind games.
Nice. Now, who's the best of the ABG crew? Who's got the most dubs in testing?
Dude, that's tough.
Most dubs.
I got to tell you, man, Cody is really, really good at Destiny. Cody, yeah. I think in terms of actual gameplay, I think Cody is probably at his best. Cody is very difficult to play against. I will say when Edwin is motivated to play Destiny, which is not right now, he's also good. Recently though, I have to say that Dave has just been dumpstering us in testing. He's since Across the Galaxy has dropped, Dave has won the most, and I think he's going to get to play his first regional next weekend. So I'm excited to see how he does. There's great expectations for him. Let's just put it that way.
Nice, yeah, and that's what I think. All you guys seemed equally skilled, but I figured it would just be a fun question to ask. And I definitely second the Cody's an amazing player, because it felt like every tournament I ever went to I usually 4th or 5th round paired with Cody and lost.
You played him on Thrawn Snoke in Connecticut too, which is just like, he pulls that out in testing, and I'm just like, do I even have to play? Like, I'll just give you the win. Like, I just don't, like, I'd rather just not be miserable for the next 30 minutes and just like play, because nobody's playing Thrawn Snoke. I know you can beat me on it. Like, I don't need to test this. But I will say, when you beat him, you know you've beaten the best of that deck. He is a great Thrawn Snoke player.
Yeah, that's what part of it felt like. Almost like I got the monkey off my back. Like he's had my number, like at Nova, at like every store championship ever. He's been beating me up pretty good, and we played 3 times, and at 5th round or whatever it was, 4th round, and then top cut we played it was top 4 we played in. But it was awesome to see him do well with that deck, and he probably is like the best Thrawn Snoke player.
Yeah, he's a tough out in the tournament for sure.
Yeah,
there's no doubt about it. I think we probably split testing, I'm going to say, me and him at this point. But I think our testing, we're like not competitive in our testing really. Like, we're more like, hey, like, what could we're always trying to play the game perfect when we test, where it's like, hey, what could you do here that's better than that? And then like, we'll, take back a move and like optimize it so that we both know what the optimal move is, and like how to react to the optimal move, rather than like, hey, you made a stupid mistake. Let's play the game from the right state, which I think is, it's helped my development as a player for sure.
Yeah. Like, you winning off of Cody's mistake in testing isn't going to help either of you in that moment. Like, you'd rather both you make optimal plays and talk through it. And that way, both decks you see operating at their best.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So I think both you and I talked about Connecticut on our past podcast a little bit, but I wanted to expand a little bit on yours, because your deck seemed like interesting. Like, I brought Tarkin Snoke, but Tarkin had kind of been around with Seven Sister, and Snoke is obviously a good character, but like Ayla Ezra Gungan is probably a deck that nobody has seen or like heard before or done well, or like heard about it doing well. But you went 5-2 with it and missed on strength of schedule. And I know that feeling all too well, but like, expand on that deck a little bit. Like, that just seems like something people would really enjoy hearing about. Like, how are you going about that deck?
Yeah, so I mean, you've seen this a lot at our local. I was playing this dating back to Way of the Force, and I actually think it's a really strong pairing. Basically, what you're doing is it's an R2P2 style deck. That's how I like to describe it, where you're trying to get one character loaded up with a bunch of weapons who's going to be your primary character. In most cases, it's going to be Ezra for you, because people are going to target Ayla, which is going to free you up to load up Ezra. And then basically you're using Gungan exclusively as a caution or into the garbage chute bot. Occasionally you'll use his dice to, enable 3PO as a focus, or, try to get the dollar down. But it's great because Ezra's draw mechanic is incredible too. So like, realistically, you can cycle through your entire deck probably reliably in 4 or 5 turns most of the time. So you have access to more of your deck than you typically do. Ayla is great at prolonging a game of Destiny just because her dice are natural damage mitigation. She's extremely strong against Vader. And then I tech the deck for Vader too. I had two suppressive fires in there, like I said earlier, 2 into the garbage chutes. Caution is actually relatively strong into Vader. And it did well, 2-1 against Vader, which I'm happy with that result. I don't know. I like the deck. It's if nothing else, it's fun. I said this in our Discord that it's not a flashy play deck, but you can make very strong plays through proper sequencing. So I think it's also a very good like improve at the game type of deck.
I'm gonna throw some shade.
Yeah,
Seen it, beat it at a little locals. No big deal.
Oh, you beat me with Dooku Talzin.
No
didn't you?
worries. Right after.
Dooku Talzin is a terrible matchup for that deck. And I actually wasn't going to play it. I had Vader Greedo and I had Millionaires Club built, and on my ride down, I was trying to decide between the two of them. And I had Ayla Ezra Gungan built as like hey, I'm going to like play, before if we're an hour early, I'll play a game. And I played Joe Kwiatek, who I respect as a really good player. And he was playing Dooku Talzin, and I crushed him. And after that, I was like, I have to play this now. If I'm beating Dooku Talzin, like I'm in the zone with this deck today.
Yeah.
I don't know. I remember that. You beat me good. I was mad about that one.
I felt really good.
I'll get that one back though.
Dude, that was like a good week for me because I came home, I was like visiting everybody, and then like they were like, "Hey, let's have a little locals." There was only like 5 of us, but it was a team of like Joe, Cody, Drew, and Frenchie, I think, and then me. And I just casually walked in there, shook hands, and took the day. It was no big deal. No, I was like, it was awesome, and I was like, I definitely need to come to you more, Drew, for like coaching and bounce ideas off of, because I'm telling you, he's got a great mind for the game.
I like to talk Destiny too, so it's.
I'm surprised we haven't brought up the fact
pair.
that like for a period, I think we're on like a break right now, but for a period of time, me and Drew would call each other and talk for like, at least a solid every time 45 minutes. Yeah, and it would be like, the current meta, what are you playing, what's good, what's sleeper cards, and I don't know, maybe I'm in the doghouse now, I guess.
Yeah. You left him for Chip, so he's kind of moving on to the greener grass.
Chip calls me and he sounds like Kramer coming through like the door. He's like, "What should I play? I don't know what I have," and I'm like, "Oh God."
Well, Jerry, they're doing that.
He's like, people are saying Qui-Gon's good. Is he good? I don't know.
Well, I think that's a great.
That's how
example.
he is.
That is good, Kramer. That's funny. But yeah, that's cool. I do really wish that you made the cut and that deck would have seen a little bit more light in terms of exposure. I think people are interested in that. That's a deck that I enjoy seeing play, and you doing well with it. So that's cool. Man. I like that you stuck to your guns on that, and same props to Mike on going 7-0 with Qui-Gon, sticking to his guns on that.
Yep. That deck's really good. I was playing that the Qui-Gon Ayla deck a little bit today. It's definitely it's got some cool tricks.
Connecticut and like Blue Hero, man. It's like his thing.
Yeah.
that's where Ray Ayla came in. Stairs came out last year.
Yeah, true story.
Cool. So we talked a little bit, mentioned that on your Ayla Ezra Gunga, but thoughts on a whole as a meta. I've enjoyed listening to Arrowheads on their thoughts, specifically Cody, listening to him talk about Vader and the field of him that you will see at regional seasons. But I want to hear your guys' thoughts on this. Like, how do you feel the game is currently with the meta that we have?
I like that we're back, and I think Drew might agree with me on this. I really do like that we're back into a 2-wide meta, because some people will say like they don't have a preference, or it doesn't matter to them, like they'll adapt. But I feel a lot more comfortable with a 2-wide meta, and with the point adjustment on Snoke, I think it catapulted us straight into that. And so I'm excited about that. Yeah, that's all I really have to say. I don't want to talk about Vader. That's it. I'm just avoiding the.
It's impossible not to. Every day somebody brings up Vader, and it's like, all right, is Vader good? Does Vader reward skill? All this other stuff. I think the current meta right now is great for the game. I think Vader specifically is putting people into advantageous positions that if it were the previous meta would not have been there. He's getting people into cuts at earlier stages of their Destiny development than they would typically be there. But I think that's good. I think it motivates people to get out and play. Personally, Vader frustrates me a little bit. I don't think he's good enough that I would play him, but I also think he's good enough that he can, roll 7 and beat me, with the friends in high places combo. So it's tough. I wouldn't necessarily say that it's a 2-wide meta. I think their 2-wides are dominant right now for sure. There's a lot more 2-wide making cut than 3-wide, but I do think 3-wide is still really strong right now. And I think there's probably a few decks out there that are poised to start seeing a little bit more play.
Yeah, I certainly think it's coming back, especially with Honestly Sarcastic making cut with a Snoke 3-wide deck. I think people are going to start going back to and exploring that because, I mean, I think people forgot about Snoke a little bit, but with Joe's deck, with Tarkin Snoke, with Cody bringing Thrawn Snoke, like, he came back and he did well. Like, when Mills, obviously a big thing, Snoke is a good way to go to counter that. It's just interesting to see if they can build a Snoke deck that can beat up on Vader consistently. But
Yeah.
I kind of like what Ray said. I like the 2-wide meta. Like, Legacy's meta was probably still my favorite time of the game. Just with all the decks that felt like they had a chance. I think there were like, you'd probably say there's probably like 3 tier 1 decks, but even the tier 2 or like 1.5, like it felt like there were a bunch of them that could compete. And I just really enjoyed that. And yeah, I think it's in a good spot. Like you said, like Vader ultimately, I think is good for the game. Like, I think there's some players coming back or new players or like, yeah, like I enjoy Vader. This is fun. It's just fun to smack a guy. But it is kind of weird in that sense of, like, I think he like makes the skill gap smaller of like there's a low floor for Vader, or I guess a high floor is what I would say.
High floor, yeah.
Where like somebody who is new to the game could still come in and do well with him, but I still certainly think that we haven't even unlocked Vader, because I think we're still at the time where, like, and I'm definitely in this, content creators, we would much rather counter something and find something that feels good as a deck and kind of just crushes people. Whereas like Vader doesn't necessarily feel good as a deck in terms of its operation. I've kind of said that to Scott and Tommy too. It's like, I mean, sure, it can come and roll you off the table, but it's like not a consistent every game. It is doing this strategy and it's crushing your soul every single time. It's very, it needs things to go its way. And I'm just not sure if we've seen like the perfect build. So it'll be interesting to see if like more player, like if they just start to pick it up and run with it and kind of fine tune it a little bit more. Cause I'm not sure we're even there yet with Vader.
My biggest issue as a competitive player with Vader is like, I think for every time somebody rolls well on Vader and wins a game, I could just as easily roll poorly and lose a game on Vader. Like, I feel like it's a deck that rewards getting to the number 7 with friends in high places in your hand so much more than perfect play. And I think there's times where if you just don't roll, if Vader just doesn't roll, it can be very hard to win with sometimes. So, Jack, can I actually ask you a question about this? Because I'm kind of curious to hear your feedback, because you were a big time Sabine Ezra player. What do you like the comparison to Sabine Ezra in this deck?
I don't, because I feel like there was so much more room for error with Sabine. Like, I kind of see the similarities, and I'm not going to throw the comparison directly out the window. But like Sabine had a 2 damage side, a 3 damage side, 11 health. Her resource side was a single resource, and she didn't have a power action to get her dice back into the pool. And she didn't have something like Vader Saber where she's doing extra damage and putting her dice back into the pool as well. Like, I think, and she had 4 less health. And so I see like the ambush action, the cheating, and it's unresponsive for the opposing player, right? They're just kind of sitting there hoping that I'm not rolling out max damage. But like, I felt like the skill of piloting Sabine to a high level was like, it required a lot more like tempo and thinking about things. You actually had to put mitigation into your deck because Sabine could get killed relatively quick, especially in that meta. Whereas Vader, I mean, they're running like 2 Force Illusions, 2 Overconfidence, 2 Hidden Motive, and like that's it.
So I always kind of thought of Sabine as a like roll well and win deck, but towards the end of Legacies, I kind of started to, I guess, we probably overuse this term now, but I started to like see the matrix with Sabine a little bit. And it really required like absolute expert resource management. That was like you needed to account for every single dollar in that deck. And that's where I really I can see why, like yourself and Mike Gem were able to like take that deck to a higher level than somebody who was just, going out there hoping to roll 3s. And I'm kind of, what I'm wondering is, can that happen with Vader, right? Is there somebody who can take Vader to that next level where like, if you spend $1 on mitigation on turn 1, is that going to affect your ability to play second chance when you need it on turn 3? Is there an equivalent for that in the Vader deck, or is Vader in fact roll well win, roll bad lose?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I mean, I think at this point we're just going to wait for Ray to crack the code, and
No, I'm
he'll
gonna
bring us the
I'm gonna
best
say
Vader deck
something
we've
like
seen yet.
that's not gonna be popular, and I'm sure because I know anytime like Drew says anything bad about Vader, he gets ripped. But here's my like comparison to the Sabine thing is I think yes, what was said basically was um Sabine behind a good player can go further than Sabine behind a suboptimal player just because they're excited to roll threes. Like, yes, that is true. And in the Legacies meta, Sabine had a lot of success, but it was with the few people that piloted her correctly. She would really junk up the Swiss rounds, and she made it hard for Mildex to break through because
Yep.
I don't want to sound like inexperienced players were trying to roll threes, and they would catch these not as finely tuned mill decks off guard, and be able to snipe characters. I think for a short period of time, like Obi Maz kind of fit that mold, but he kind of broke through himself. But my thing is, I don't know, and I don't think we have enough like data or players on, like, I don't want to say players on the deck, but I don't know the level of players that are playing Vader, like their personal skill. But I think Vader still allows this like cushion where even if you do misplay, the very next discard to reroll episode I will be on, the very next discard to reroll, you can just swing the game completely. And I don't think Sabine really had that in the sense that, like you were saying, you had to manage your resources. You had to really watch your health because it was an 18 health deck. And if you look at it, like it was an 18 health deck and Vader has 15 by himself. So like that's where it's just like everything is inflated when it becomes Vader. Resource management was huge with Sabine. She only had a 1 resource side. He has a 2 resource side. Everything's inflated, and I think that allows you to have a few more errors in the turn and still be fine.
Yeah. My other to add on to that also, because I think those are all really good points, is that I feel like Vader's decision tree is not complex. Like you basically, there's not a whole lot you can do other than what you're supposed to do. Right. So I don't think if you put the best play, the hypothetical best player in the world on Vader, I don't think there's a lot of decisions that they're going to make that are drastically different than an average player on Vader. And then it's really just going to come down to what dice that I put in the pool at what time.
Yeah, you're gonna feed power action, play Vader Saber, and then do friends in high place and hopefully hit a fist. And then your turn 1 was insane, and there's no way your opponent comes back from that.
It's kind of interesting, right? Because the conversation also is like, what is making Vader so successful? And a lot of people think it's Fist. A lot of people think it's Vader. A lot of people think it's Vader Saber. A lot of people think it's Fear and Dead Men, Friends in High Places, on and on and on. But it's really just the combination of them and how Vader's dice make these typically high variance cards into low variance cards. And I don't know if it needs a fix or something like that, but it's definitely it can be very frustrating to play against.
I think I'm currently in the boat of if Theed gets fixed, I think Vader's power level comes down.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, so the big thing with Theed is obviously you power action with Vader, with Theed while running Vader because you're winning the battlefield almost every time because of his dice. You're playing Vader Saber, you're playing Friends at High, and like the thing is that 3 character points gave you profitable connections, which you started with a resource. But now we just have a battlefield where you can power action, and if you have a neutral character, it's not even costing you an action to set you behind or anything. It's just a free resource every single time. And obviously, these neutral characters are good enough to bring where it's not an issue. It's not like you're losing a power level by doing that. So I mean, that's just my issue, is that I feel like they underestimated the power of a power action to get a resource every single time, neutral character or not. So I think that's just like, that's what is keeping Vader up so high, because he can turn 1 Vader Saber, and then Friends and High for something else.
Yeah.
And a 30 card deck, it's not hard to get 2 of those things into your hand.
Yeah. It enables the Vader Saber, Vader's Fist start, which is just like, if you hit that, I don't think there's very few decks that can deal with that for 3 turns. It's just it's too much damage. And at that point, you're just basically like, you don't even need anything else. You can just save your dollars for Vader sides and for re-rolling in the Vader Saber, and it gets out of hand quick.
Yeah.
I agree though. I think Theed is a problem. I'm on board with that. I would definitely like to see a change to Theed. The fact that 80% plus of decks are running Theed is a problem, and it's so noticeable with Vader. Right? I've played 6 games against Vader at regionals now, I think. And the one game where I actually won the battlefield from Vader, it feels vastly different when he's not on Theed and when he's not getting that 3 resource start.
Yeah, the Vader player, like, it's just like, what do you do? Like, I can't, like, maybe drop an Ancient. Like, it's obviously, like, Ancient used to be, Scott even said last week, it was just like, that used to be the power play, and Ancient turn 1 was great.
Yeah.
But in, like, a Vader deck, that is so much below what he can possibly do that they just feel so behind on terms of their, like, potential damage output, which is crazy.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, like, I don't even mind the Ancient. Like, if they roll the +3 side, like, you should be prepared. Like, I feel like on turn 1, if you're playing against a blue deck, you should be prepared to possibly have to deal with a +3 Ancient side, right? Like, you should be factoring that into what you're mulliganing for, what you're keeping, possibly holding something like a Hidden Motive, which is an ideal card to deal with Ancient Lightsaber. So I'm fine with that. It becomes much more complicated when that Ancient, which has a 1 in 6 chance to roll a +3, becomes a Vader Saber or a Maul Saber, which can basically just completely blow you out on turn 1.
Yeah, I agree. Any other thoughts on Vader, guys?
No,
we'll move
I'm
on
done
to a
with
little
them.
bit of a.
Oh, I'm so
I figured
done
Ray
with
was
them.
ready to move on. All right, we'll move on, and I want to just talk a little bit about the FFG OP and certain things with that. But before we get into the nitty gritty, obviously the specific of like the Q4 Worlds now, I want to ask you guys just 2 questions. So the first one is, what is the one thing you feel like OP has gotten right? That they hit like a home run out of the park. They did this right. You were happy to see this, whether it was a type of event, a prize, or whatever it might be. Is there one thing that you felt like they actually did very well this year?
I'm going first, Drew, because there's not many things, and you're going to steal mine. Prize support for regionals. I think that they were very well done. Go, Drew.
Yeah, you like the Ray Kylo Matt?
Do I? I'm gonna start with a hot take on this. Actually, I think the Ray Kylo Matt is higher quality than the Vader Matt. I don't think the Vader Matt is like it looked better on the internet than it does when I take it out of the closet.
If you wanted the high quality Vader Matt, it was going to be delayed, so they had to rush order these.
Anyway, that's nitpicking. I don't have to sit here and nitpick. They did a good job with prize support. I think the prize support is pretty good. They did a good job with the number of store championships they had this year. There were as many store championships as you wanted to play in, to the point where it was like, how much is too much, which is great. I'd rather have that than not enough. I think they did an okay job with regional locations. It seems like there's a couple areas that got missed, notably Orlando and LA, Philadelphia as well. But I think they did a reasonably good job with their site selection.
I want to know who picks them, because like, how does that whole process go? Like, I'm not a store. I'm not a vendor or anything like I just don't understand that, because like skipping out on Orlando, Philadelphia, especially, just because I'm familiar with it, like those are huge markets. I don't know. It just seems like you'd want a presence there.
Part of me gets Philadelphia because of how much it's surrounded by others, but I'd have no idea how they didn't get Orlando or LA. Like Philadelphia, ultimately, like, I mean, we have like 6 regionals we can go to all within 3 hours or so.
Yep.
Like Virginia, Maryland, New Jersey, New York City, Connecticut. Was there one more? Or maybe it was 5. But still, 5 within 3 hours is obviously pretty good. And so, yeah, we can't complain. I mean, we were definitely spoiled with the amount of regional opportunities that we had. in this area, and they've all been January till like they've all been post Christmas. So really, like we could go to a regional every weekend from now until it ends.
So can I complain about that?
Yes.
This is what I don't like about this, right? So there's 5 regionals that me and you can go to. Why do those 5 regionals have to be in a 6-week span? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
what if FFG knows, or at least has some sort of idea, that Worlds is not going to be May 4th this year, right? Why are there 50 regionals in a 8-week period? Why could they not have spread these out until April to give us something to play for a little bit longer?
Yeah, and I'm worried that it hurts attendance in the later ones. Like Connecticut and Virginia did well, and they both pulled like from the obviously closer down south to all the way up north. Like they pulled from all that area, but like now when you start to get into it more, like how well is New York City going to do? It's in the city, like it's hard to get to, and if you don't feel like traveling into it, that's okay because you could have gone somewhere else the weekend before, and you can go to somewhere else the weekend after.
Yeah.
So it's like jamming them all together. Whereas like if they were, like you said, spread out, it's like, okay, maybe I'll do New York City because if I don't do this, New Jersey's not for another like 4 weeks.
I think it hurts the ones that are back to back, right? Like, for example, Virginia to Connecticut, you probably had some people that could have gone to both and chose to go to one.
Yeah.
I think those are the ones that get really get hit hard. And, you know,
I don't even think, that they look at it like that though. Like I think they see a regional start from this date and they end this date. It's, throughout the country, we're good, guys. Like I don't even think they take it that far. Like, what you're saying I think is valid, and yes, it would be preferred to kind of, stagger them and make it more of a draw and something that you're anticipating. But I honestly feel like they said regional start this time, our last one ends this time, we're good, guys. How many do we get? 40 something? Great. Awesome. Like
I think they did play a part into scheduling of region. Like store champs, I think it's all loose. Like they give them the kit, you schedule it. But talking to some stores, it made it seem like FFG was trying to have them pick around certain days.
Yeah, that's what I
Like
heard
mainly
too.
to schedule not the same day, but like they wouldn't want something like Connecticut and New York City on the same day because obviously then they're fighting for players like literally within their demographic on the same day. But like the fact that they just made it a short window almost gave them no room to wiggle. I mean, like the last one is February 16th. It's just like, why did you jam that into a month and a half post Christmas? Like that didn't need to happen.
It definitely is concerning to me. I mean, everybody felt it, right? 2 months ago, there was a lull in the game, right? Before regionals were announced, post nationals, before regionals were announced, it was like, help us, the game is dying, right? There were like people crying that, which is obviously very exaggerated in hindsight, and it probably was not even close to the truth. But that's what's going to happen again as soon as regionals end, and especially if the next event that they have announced that isn't a GQ is Worlds in just Q4. That's a huge time frame to go without having anything. So my hope is that if we're going to start a new schedule, or a new calendar of how the events are going to progress or whatever, that we get that sooner rather than later.
Yeah, this needs to be the time where they're communicating with us, like what the plan is.
Yes.
Like it just the fact that there's silence, like you said, between we're assuming store champs are happening in the summer, but it's still like the silence between February to June is still concerning.
Yeah.
About them.
Yeah, and I mean, you guys saw the New Year's Eve Twitter, right? Like with hey, we promise we're going to communicate better next year and all this.
Oh,
other
I jumped
stuff.
in on that, dude.
Yeah,
that was so dumb. Like I really could not believe FFG's, and I don't know who was running that, but whoever did that was so beyond themselves that they should never be let near a PR area again. Like the fact they tweeted out like, hey, what were your favorite moments? And everybody's like, oh, you're so bad at communicating. The one time you did it was probably my favorite moment this year.
Yeah.
And they don't fix it. There's no active, as a consumer, not a content creator, as a consumer, I don't even feel like they're actively trying to communicate with me. So when they then respond, oh, we heard those criticisms. This is for just stuff that we, or you felt like went well. We heard those criticisms already. We'll deal with them later. I'm like, dude, you wouldn't have people talking about this again if you just addressed it in the first place. Like you're addressing it isn't just saying, okay, we'll communicate better. Like actually communicate. The one time FFG did that well was in the lull a little bit after the delay of Way of the Force, I believe it was. Like right after that or right before that, whatever, they came out and had like a little press release. They apologized and they said Across the Galaxy was coming out in Q3 or like whatever it was. They actually gave a date for it, November, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Like that was the one time they've done that. And I don't know. It's been frustrating to see their lack of, because it doesn't take much. Like even if they did like a once a week type little, like sit down with the developer, sit down with OP, announce like, hey, here's at least our ideas of what we would like to do. Like we just get nothing, and I think that's the biggest frustration for me.
Yeah, I agree. And they're making a pretty penny off of Destiny, I think. So I think we deserve a little bit better from FFG, in my opinion.
Yep.
Yeah, even with the IPs, X-Wing and Destiny are doing very well for them.
Yep.
During that whole Twitter war, all I could do was be an adult and comment memes to everybody's thing.
I loved your response to theirs. It was like the guy took, it was like a basketball one. It was a GIF, and the guy took like a 3, turned around, act like he made it, and then it just like airballed.
We have a great process for this in ABG, where if I want to say something negative to somebody or like some entity like FFG or something that's probably going to be putting my foot in my mouth, I put it into our like private chat first. I'm like, hey Kyle, is this acceptable to say to the public? And then it's just like immediately like, absolutely not. And then it just never gets said. So that there were a few of those while that was going on.
Kyle's your screen man.
Yes, he's the, is this appropriate to say to this person or to this, this organization?
Yeah. I think Tommy and I both kind of do that. It's more like screening Scott, because sometimes you just never know what he's like. Every week he's going on a rant about something somebody did, whether it's OP or it's a store or it's the way players are playing. Like he's always yelling at somebody.
So what do you guys think of the idea of a big player run event? Do you think that's something that we could get a big turnout for?
For me personally, I think it's a little bit more tough to do like a player run thing, especially if it's something like in Orlando. And I get why you would want to have it in there. And obviously it's not like my opinion's be all end all type thing. But for me, it would be hard for me to sometimes justify going down to Orlando to do that for like a player run thing. Cause it's hard. Ultimately it is a gamble. Like even if the big content creators came together, if you and the Hyperloops and Knights Ran all sponsored it, Artificery, like the big names, and that way the word got out and almost every player knew about it. Ultimately, it's like who's going to show up type thing. And I think that would be like the worry. Like if I took a week off from work to go down to Orlando and only like 30 people showed up.
Yeah.
That would obviously like be like, well, I just took time off from work that I might not be able to take off again in December to go to Worlds. And it's like, if I have to pick between the two, I'd rather go to the official thing just because it's guaranteed of something. But that doesn't mean I'm opposed to the idea. If like the Hyperloops came out with a date, I would definitely check the date and see like, can I do this? I try to make that work, but I feel like I'm more inclined to go to something official. But I think that's also just like kind of me, like how I am sometimes.
So I wasn't able to attend this event, but Kappa Cup was basically a player run event. It was a non-FFG event where the turnout was pretty good during that like lull between store championships and regional announcements. And that was run by an organization that is really not very well known in the Destiny community. I mean, I think they're known by our area, but nationwide, I don't think so. And I think if you had one of the major content creators put something together, I could definitely see it drawing 100 people, especially if you're going to do it across multiple games. So I'm curious to see if it does happen, how it goes. And I would definitely be a supporter of it. Like that's an event that I would want to be at. If nothing else, just to show FFG like, hey, like we actually, if you're not going to do it, we can do it better without you.
Yeah, I think this was something I might have spoke with like both of you about. I think like I've texted privately or called privately both of you in regards to like, hey, do you think we could make this happen? Like I know nothing about renting a venue. Do you think that we could come up with some type of prize support? And at the time we were like, let's hold it in New Jersey, let's make it local. And do you think that we can draw enough people? And at the end of the day, we're not looking to make a profit. We're just looking to be able to cover the overhead of the venue and any, amenities that we would be able to offer in that venue. Yeah, I don't know. I think that personally, I think if all of the content creators got on board, and we all wanted to converge down to Orlando, at the end of the day, between the groups of content creators, um, there's 10, 12 of us, and on each team there's about 5 or 6 people. So I mean, if you did those numbers alone, and that's not excluding the general public, I think. I was talking to Mike recently, Bobby Sapphire. I easily think you could look at numbers of 75 to 100.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's realistic.
Yeah, I think they could. I mean, my number of 30 wasn't my expectation. It was just, the idea of the possibility, like something like that could happen. I mean, I think like the example of Kappa Cup, I think is good, but like I think it also drew generally from that local area. Like I'm not sure if it really got anybody. Actually, Tim, I believe, was the only one. He was like a 6-hour drive. He came out, dropped his kids off at like his parents' house, something like that. Something along those lines.
Chip was a pretty far ride too, I think, right? He drove like 5 hours or something like that.
Yeah, he was about 5, but like it was nobody flew in. But granted, Orlando's like a better destination than the middle of Pennsylvania.
For sure.
It's like somebody could feasibly be like, yeah, I'm going to spend money to fly into Orlando because that sounds like a good weekend or half week or whatever it might be. Where somebody's like, oh, Reading, Pennsylvania, I think I'll pass.
Yeah.
Well, I guess, or actually they were Hershey, I guess. That's where it was, but I definitely could see it doing well. But just for me personally, I think it would. Maybe a little bit more of a step, or I'd be a little bit more hesitant, but still open to going to that. So, I mean, I would definitely push for it. I would definitely promote the heck out of it and send any prize support that I could. And I mean, I would personally love to host whatever tournaments where we could. I think my issue is like, I have no idea where to start for like prize support. Like if somebody could like help me make mats or give me arts for cards, like I would take care of all the back end stuff. I'd order it. I'd set something up with like Top Deck or ATK or something and get it going. But I'm always at a loss for where to even start.
I think and I'm sure there's we have a large group. Like if we put all of the content creators together, like there's a pretty large group and there's a lot of smart people in it. I think if you were looking just to charge the player of the event enough so we break even, cover the cost of the venue, and maybe a little bit extra goes into a pot that's to produce prizes. I don't think that's unreasonable. Mind you, we do have to keep it a value that people aren't going to get slammed with, because majority of people might have to fly down there, and then find lodging and things like that. But I still think that depending on the numbers, you can make it a pretty reasonable number, and then we can come up with that prize support. I just think, I honestly think for this game, if 6 or 7 content creator groups got together and said, we're going to dedicate promoting to this, we are going to shovel out a little bit of our own money, and we're really going to push for this, and we all kind of came together, I think that we could put on a really great event.
I can see that happen. There's a lot of good minds, like you said, behind all the content creators, a lot of talented people. I think it could get out there as well. And I mean, that Kappa Cup had that similar, like their entry fee was $30, which is obviously a little more steep for a tournament, but for anybody there, like the prize support was through the roof, man. You walked away with something no matter what place you came in the event.
So,
and it was also, I mean, kudos FFG because they did support it. They did send hidden motives and executioners, which was nice of them. They should be doing stuff like that.
So let's just compare like the prize support to Kappa Cup to the prize support at Worlds last year, where you paid. I'm being honest. The Worlds prize support for $80 was not good. Was not great. I mean, I liked what I got, but I feel like I could have paid $30 and also have liked what I liked it more. You know what I mean? Like there was nothing there where I was like, hey, this is worth $80. Like you got a Palpatine full art, and if you won enough games, you got some like semi crummy tokens and and that kind of stuff. Now, when you get into top 16 and you get a Maul mat or a Dark Saber or whatever you end up with, that's where it really starts to pay off. But I mean, there were 300 people there and 16 people got those prizes. And I feel like probably 284 people, didn't get $80 worth of prize support for an event like that. I mean, you could go and win additional stuff by buying into pods. I probably was at $200 total entry fee at the end of Worlds, and I left with a Hondo spot gloss, some tokens, and some old spot gloss cards. So if I feel like if FFG can draw people on $80 for that prize support, what could content creators do 50, 60, 70, 80 themselves? They could probably do a lot better than FFG did, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I mean, what was the 80? Like, you got a bind, like that card binder. That's the exact same one you get for top 2 at regionals.
Yeah.
You got the Palpatine. You got like a 60 sleeves, I think.
You got
And they weren't very high quality
the
either.
world sleeves, yeah, and sleeves
Yeah.
sleeves are expensive to customize. I've looked into that. I know that's not the cheapest thing. And you got a T-shirt, and it was an okay T-shirt, but I'm sure that costs FFG $3, if that, to mass produce. So you probably got, I'm going to say $20 worth of stuff for $80, and then the right to pay more money to collect tickets to win more stuff.
Yeah. Then the rest of it was if you did well enough or if you did pods. Because I think if you got 3 wins, you got Kanan. If you got 4, you made day 2 and you got the shields.
Yep.
And then I think top 32 was Maul, top 16 was metal, top 8 was power action tokens, which weren't even that good quality. Top 4 was that like art, that patience art, I think.
Ooh, that was.
I don't know what top 2 was, and then the winner was obviously the dark saber.
Yeah, I think you got like a plaque for like being a finalist for top 2. And then
didn't have like the Jin Urso thing or something.
And then first was like the trophy and obviously the dark saber mat, which is I would say that's a pretty prestigious prize. You could probably get a couple thousand for that if you really wanted to.
Yeah. All right. So here's my final question for you guys, is we're a little bit over an hour at this point. But if you were put in charge of OP, and you could redo the entire thing, what would your calendar year look like? How would you lay everything out? And you can add any small things within there and just kind of organize it how you think would be best for the Destiny community. What would your 2019 season look like?
I'll start with this because I kind of did this on my podcast this week, and I got fairly positive reception, I think, so far. Nobody's flamed me for it, so that's typically a good sign.
Round 2. Here you go. Here's where the fire is going to come.
I think get on Golden Dice podcast. I just get blown up for it. That's just what I need.
Kyle's not here to keep you in line.
I know.
Dude. Just let loose.
Go crazy. I think I would like to see like a progressive season, right? Like, let's just say we're going into season 1 right now, or let's call it season 3 because we're going into the third worlds. You open up with store championships, and that can be over 4 months. Spread them out however you want to do it. That progresses into your maybe after store championships you throw nationals, or you throw the US championship in there, or the North American championship as like the premier event. Then you do regional season, which is 4 months. At the end of regional season, that's when you have your national championship at the end of that. So that like each of the third of the year is broken up with a major event, and then maybe at the end you do your galactic qualifiers before Worlds, that then concludes with the world championship. So just give us something where there's a full calendar year where everything is going on, and I think it's kind of cool to just like break it out into sections like that. So it's like, all right, we're in store championship and North American or whatever continent you're on championship, then regionals, and then the national championship, and then just go down the line progressively until you hit Worlds. I know that's hard to do with the way that like GQs are and the timing behind GQs, but that would be my ideal schedule.
I kind of agree with that. Like, I do like Drew's theory of like a progressive event. It almost makes it like a sports season to me, where you have these smaller events and they keep advancing, and it becomes like a crescendo to the culminating event, which is Worlds. So I completely agree with them. It would be cool if we can talk kind of like almost sports lingo, where it's like, how'd you do season 3, how'd you do season 4, in the game, and the metas would be different, and things would kind of evolve and move along as the different tournaments happen. But it would be cool if like if you can kind of mark your dates by that. Right now, like, to be honest with you, I'm a content creator. I'm a guy who's plugged into the game. I have a hard time keeping up with the dates and what what competitions we're in. Like, okay, regional season, like how long is it? Like when does it end for me? When does it end for the nation? And then when does the next thing start? Like, it's always been like really up and down for me. But I think what Drew has, he should put his application in.
Sign me up,
Yeah,
man.
you wanna move out to Minnesota?
I work from home, man. That's how it's got to be for me. I don't go to an office. So if FFG wants me,
Put it in the contract.
I'm available, but I'm not traveling. That's
I'm staying in South Jersey
it, man.
and working from home.
That's it, man.
Yeah, I like that idea. I like the progression. Like, even in terms of like currently what we have, if it started out store champs, regionals over the summer, and then into Gen Con Nova, and then Worlds to wrap it up with some GQs sprinkled in, kind of wherever. Still let Cascade do what they're doing.
Can
And
I
I was
can
like,
I
I like.
can
Oh,
I
go
add
ahead.
one? Can I add one thing to my plan too? Just like one other thing I'd like to see from FFG.
Yeah, go ahead.
I would definitely like to see, and even if it's not like a weekly local kit, some type of kit, like even like a monthly kit with some incentive to get people to come out like once a month to a big tournament. And that could be like hey, like September, we're doing an Ancient Lightsaber promo. You can only get this if you win the September event. Something like that. Something where like, they have to produce 12 cards in a calendar year, which is not difficult to do, but something that like a promo or incentives that brings people out at least one time a month beyond these like local kits, which in general are not the reason people are coming out to these events.
Yeah, I was literally just about to say something along the lines of like a bigger quarterly kit, like something that people actually care about and be more consistent with it. Like, we're in 2019 and we still haven't gotten the quarter 4 kits from 2018. So it's like they need to get consistent with that. But it was something along the lines of like a release kit too. Like when every time a set comes out, like have promo cards of that set and even like top 4 mat, top mat, whatever. Like, I mean, Keyforge did that, and the winner of that got the I believe Wild Wormhole is the art on the mat, and it looks dope. Like I would have loved to actually gone to them and done that. I ended up not having time, but it's like, I don't know, something along those lines, like you said, to keep people coming out to the stores more consistently. Because like even for me, like it's just tough to get out there every week, just knowing I'm just going to be playing for packs. Like it's just like I don't need any packs, and it's like, yeah, I could get store credit, or I could just not spend money, and
People are not going to locals for the kit. That's my point. Is it's
yeah,
like the first time you're at a local and the new kit is there, it's like, oh cool, there's a new kit, but that's not why I was going to that local that night, and it's definitely not why I'm showing up a week later. And I just
no,
like I don't know. I would like to see something because a lot of the stores are doing, they'll do it like a monthly big event or something like that, and then they'll put up their own prize support. They'll put up Force Speeds, or they'll put up Ancient Lightsabers as a prize, or that kind of stuff. And they typically draw fairly well. And that's something that FFG could do for us that, these store owners probably shouldn't have to be doing for FFG.
yeah. Unless the store owner's like personally invested into Destiny, it's kind of hard for stores to kind of up that ante a little bit.
Yep.
I've been saying like to our store, to Top Deck, like they have hundreds of Empire War boxes. I'm like, dude, what if one week like if we had a big tournament and every round Miles just came in, plopped a box down at a random table and was like, you guys are playing for this box, like this random game. Like, trust me, nobody's gonna go in and buy an Empire War box. Either you try to give those away and make it fun and like reward the people coming to your store, or those boxes are just gonna like sit on your shelves. And
Top
like
Deck
that would be
do it,
so
man.
cool. I think they would, but Miles doesn't like answering me unless it's about Keyforge. So I don't think he cares too much about Destiny.
Dude, he must be making a killing on Keyforge, because all I see on Facebook from him now is like, here's like $8,000 worth of Keyforge decks I have.
Yeah.
Let me know who wants them and like where you want me to ship them to. I'm like, damn, man.
That dude is a hustler. He's really good into the stocks as well, and I think he's taking that knowledge and applying it to Keyforge. And it's hilarious. But yeah, so I mean that's your guys' thoughts on OP. I liked it. I like that idea of like a progression, a season. I think that could be good. And I think part of this change to the Q4 worlds is coming from a new leadership in OP. So I think we do have to give them a little space to figure out what they're doing, but they also need to realize just because they're changing everything doesn't mean it's okay to leave a 4 or 5 month gap in the competitive scene. So
Agreed.
Yep.
I guess last note, actually today, a new draft set was spoiled. I don't know the name of it. I didn't actually look at the name. Let me see if I can pop up right now. But did you guys get a chance to look at that and see?
I did. I don't think we really have anything other than a couple of pictures of what look like Fenrau and Watto, I think, are the ones that are pretty obvious.
Yeah, it's called Allies of Necessity. But there's some interesting stuff in there within the release date. So currently, some of the two of the sites said February 15th. And what almost cemented that a little bit more for me is that it said order deadline is January 18th.
Tomorrow.
And so I think that would be interesting because, like, people say, oh, but the new set's probably not going to come till March, which could still happen. But if you remember Legacies, like the draft kits were here like before Christmas, and then Legacies came like mid-January or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So who knows if something weird like that happens again. But I am excited about a new draft kit. But yeah, it's looking like Fenrau. And I know we have a bet. I don't know if it happened in our Discord. I think it might actually happen in yours, Drew, in the Arrowbrook one. A bet between Inception and Jedi Geek Girl. If that's Dooku or Savage on the cover. And I'm kind of leaning towards Dooku.
Amanda has Ventress as her
Ventress.
pick. Yeah.
Yep. But I mean, it seems interesting. It'll be nice to freshen up draft. I think it's cool having, the characters that we have, but if we were to just go into a whole nother year of a cycle of new sets and still having Anakin, Ketsu, Lobot, like that would be a little bit boring for me.
Yeah, I agree. Draft to me has gotten like a little bit stale. I feel like I've like played it as much as I want to at this point, and
Yeah.
I'm definitely excited to have a little new life into the draft kits.
Does Asajj Ventress have like weird things on her cheeks? Doesn't she have like tattoos or something?
I think she has like thin cheeks, right? Isn't that what it is?
Yeah, she's got
I'm
like
looking
a
at
thin,
a
narrow.
zoomed in picture of this, and
to me, the background screams Dooku. Like if you look at Boundless Ambition, like it looks like that background.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like
Ventress has been like tied to Dooku for most of the like Clone Wars stuff, though, so it's not unreasonable to say that their background could be similar.
That's fair. That's fair. I don't know if I have to back up, I'm backing up Inception.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to get involved in this one. I don't know. I don't know which one. It doesn't. Honestly, it doesn't look like either of them to me. So
yeah, I guess we'll see. Hopefully in February.
Yeah, the thing that I actually find interesting about that though is like if it is like, let's say Dooku, is it a neutral Dooku, or is this going to be all neutral characters, or are they going to go into draft where like, hey, like you can have a pre-made villain ready for you if you want it to be that?
I mean, ultimately in draft, it doesn't matter technically. Like they could all be heroes or they could all be villains.
Oh, that's true, because you're not bound by the hero villain in draft.
Yeah, and I think something like if they made them hero and villain, it could probably let them balance them a little bit more.
Yeah.
Which could be interesting, but also if you go by the Rivals kit, they would all be neutral. But that, remains to be seen. I like, to me, if it is Dooku, like how is he, like in what world is he neutral? He's either a Jedi or he's a Sith, like at any point in his timeline. So
yeah, he's definitely not neutral. That's for
what's
sure.
the yellow dice in the background?
Exactly.
Like Bumblebee from Transformers? What is that?
I think it's Watto.
Is it? That's cool.
Isn't Watto? Isn't he? So wasn't his dice on the convergence box though?
Oh,
so
maybe.
Would they do like? It'd be weird if they did Watto in the release.
I would have.
Like in the actual set and in the
I would imagine
maybe that's what I was thinking of. Maybe I was thinking of the convergence.
It looks like some type of support, because I see like loosely I could see a 3-side. So unless Watto's got some 3 sides on him, I'm playing Watto. 3 anything sounds good.
Watto's thrown out 3 range at you, man.
His dice is just a chance cube. That's all it is.
Yeah, really.
3 blanks, a 3 resource. Let's do it.
All right, we'll start to wrap up. The new draft kit is certainly exciting. But Drew, Ray, thanks for coming on, guys. But if people are looking to hear more about you, which I'm sure they already know, both of you, Drew, how can they find you?
www.arrowbrookgaming.com. Check us out on Facebook, Arrowbrook Gaming, YouTube, Arrowbrook Gaming, Google Arrowbrook Gaming. You can yell Arrowbrook Gaming into the air really loud, and somebody will come find you. It's pretty much it, man. Any top table stream, Arrowbrook Gaming mats everywhere. That's what we're going for.
Discard to reroll. I got an official discard to reroll email address. So it's thunder@discardtoreroll.com. So if you ever want to reach out to me, tell me you hate hearing my voice and you wish I would just go away and stop, infecting everybody's podcasts. Just send me an email. at thunder at discardtoreroll.com. So yeah, that's it. And then you can check out the co-pilot if you feel like watching me talk about Jack's decks. So
there you go. I was really hoping your email was going to be Thunder instead of
no,
Thunder. The
it's
Thunder from
strictly
down
business,
Strictly business. All right, we are going to sign out, and Drew, I'm gonna give you the final word.
I guess thanks for listening. It's been a lot of fun.